So let us look at the divisions of the autonomic nervous system here. We have two parts, right? Sympathetic and the parasympathetic division. And you have a general understanding of these already, but we're going to dive just a little bit more when it comes to some of the nuances of them. Sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic, you know it, fight or flight. Parasympathetic, rest and digest. Sympathetic is also referred to as the thoracolumbar division because of where those preganglionic neurons start or arise from. T1 to L2, the first thoracic to the second lumbar nerve. The preganglionic neurons here are referred to as paravertebral because they are round. They basically run parallel down the side of the thoracic vertebrae. Right here. Boom, 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 boom. And the same thing on the other side. These are generally referred to not as paravertebral ganglia, but that is technically what it is. But we usually refer to them as a whole because they form a chain, as you saw from that picture. They're connected. So we usually refer to them as a sympathetic chain ganglia. That's how it generally gets referred to at higher levels. Paravertebral ganglia, I mean, technically it's around. They're around the sides, para. But they are connected, as you can kind of see right there. And we usually refer to them as sympathetic chain ganglia. So as the nerves extend out, okay, they'll come out here and synapse in here. Okay, well, the nerve will come out here and synapse in here and go up or go down. Okay. So that's the great thing about these ganglia. Everything's connected. Everything is connected in this thing. Generally, when we think of sympathetic division, fight or flight, we basically turn on all the lights in the house. Okay, you don't really care. You just turn everything on, right? You're trying to run from the bobcat in the parking lot. You're trying to survive. You don't really care about being discreet and turning things on and off. And generally, that's what you think of. You think of massive divergence, okay? Because these ganglia or these nerves extend out, can go to a specific ganglia, and from that ganglia, we can go to 3 or 4 or 5 different things. But when you really look at it, sympathetic ganglia, or the preganglionic neurons, they can do both really divergence and convergence, okay? One preganglionic neuron synapses on several postganglionic neurons. Several preganglionic neurons at different levels synapse on one. So because we have these sympathetic chain ganglia, I can extend a nerve out. We have a picture here. I can extend, here comes that nerve, right? And there's that preganglionic. It can go on here and synapse on one thing. Another thing can come down here, and multiple things can converge on something. You could see this nerve can come out here and actually diverge and go to a number of different other ganglia. And we have some divergence. So in the grand scheme, it's all convergence and divergence. But when you think of sympathetic, think of we're turning everything on at one time. Okay, so think of it more as a divergent type of thing, but it does exhibit both phenomena as other nerves can come down here and synapse and converge. But then that goes there, and so really, I mean, it is divergence. Semantics of words and terminology. So in the grand scheme, what in the hell do we have to think? Divergence, massive divergence. Okay, but a nerve, there could be multiple preganglionic nerves that can come down and synapse on various different things. So that is a convergence type of thing. Mass activation. Turn it all on. Collateral ganglia here, when it comes to the sympathetic vision, it is, again, up in the thoracic, we have the paravertebral sympathetic chain ganglia. Below the diaphragm, in the abdominal cavity, we have more of what's referred to as collateral ganglia. And collateral, they're just kind of just anterior, basically, to the aorta, abdominal aorta. And they form what is referred to generally as these kind of splanchnic ganglia. All right. These collateral ganglia are listed right here. Okay. And splanchnic, all that means is viscera. Okay. Splanchnic means viscera. Entrails is what it technically means. Organs. The entrails is technically what the derivation of splanchnic means. But we have celiac ganglion, we have the superior mesenteric, inferior mesenteric ganglia, and these are, again, literally just right anterior to that abdominal aorta. You could, there's your celiac, there's your superior mesenteric, and there's your inferior mesenteric ganglia. Okay. And these help to supply and innervate all of the organs within the digestive, urinary, and reproductive tracts. From para to collateral to the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland, specifically the adrenal medulla, actually is developed embryologically in the same vein as these ganglia did. And so when it migrated down into where it sits right now, within the middle of the adrenal gland, it's also involved with the sympathetic. There are branches, nerves, that extend down to the adrenal gland to help it secrete epinephrine and norepinephrine. So this helps to further kind of bolster the sympathetic response because of epinephrine and norepinephrine. Parasympathetic is also referred to as the cranial sacral because it arises from cranial nerves, oculomotor, facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus, as well as S2, 3, and 4. So hence the, hence the cranial sacral division. These guys synapse really on ganglia that are either right near the effector or inside the effector. So these are referred to as terminal ganglia. So sympathetic have very short preganglionic fibers and generally very long postganglionic. Parasympathetic have very long preganglionic fibers and very short postganglionic fibers. Okay. So again, knowing where the ganglia is allows you to figure out if it's long pre, short post, or vice versa. Here we go. And so here we have short pre, long post. Long pre, short post. Long pre, short post. So you can see the difference between that. So just knowing where these ganglia are located allows you to figure out if the terminal ganglia is within it, parasympathetic. And remember, this is going to be very discrete in its activation. If I have the ganglia right on top of or within it, then you know I'm only turning on that individual effector. And as you can see from these pictures here, parasympathetic, I mean, when it extends out, I mean, it goes here and it goes right to there. You can see the vagus nerve can affect many different things. So it's almost like some divergence. But you can see it's giving off branches and it's only very discrete activation here. And we're only turning on what we need to turn on. When we're digesting food, I only need stuff turned on in the stomach. I don't need the large intestine or the small intestine turned on. So we can be very discreet in what we do here.